hospital in Long Beach to do an echo test for my heart. So I'm about to check in, and I'm told the test is fairly easy, just them hooking up some wires to monitor my heart. That's it. So we'll see. Yesterday I did my echo test. It's basically the same thing as an ultrasound, but just of the heart area. So they checked me in, and I just went in, just took the top part of my clothes off, and they put that jelly over the heart area, and they just took pictures of my heart, essentially to get a before picture before the chemotherapy starts. So no real test with the echo, it's just to get an idea of where, or I guess a good baseline before chemo starts for my heart.
So what are we doing today?
A full body CT scan with and without contrast, which means I have to drink 2 of these and be injected with an IV in order to get the full body CT scans with and without contrast.
Yeah. How's it taste?
Like banana candy, but it's room temperature water. Kind of resembles The Last Jedi, that milk that Luke Skywalker is harvesting from those weird creatures on that island.
You're such a nerd.
It's delicious. Warm banana milk, but it's like they put banana flavor inside a warm milk. Not warm milk, like a room temperature milk. I feel like a baby right now. Today we did the CT scan with and without contrast, whatever that means. So I had to check in an hour before my appointment. They gave me 2 shakes filled with some kind of solution to drink. So I drank those, and we had to wait. They said an hour, but we really just waited 30 minutes. And they called me back, and then they put an IV in my arm. I didn't have to take any clothes off, just metal and stuff. Laid me down on a little bed and set me up with the IV, and he told me I would feel a warm sensation throughout my body. And once I felt that warming, it would kind of be a signal to me that we're pretty much done with the test. So that all happened within 5 minutes. Just slide me in and out of this little tube 2 or 3 times to take photos. I did feel the warming sensation, which was kind of interesting because it came from the inside of my body, and I can feel it from my head to my toes. It was really weird, but overall, good experience, nothing bad, went smooth, and hopefully this is the last and final test before the actual treatment can begin. So
what's next?
What's next? Should be a follow-up appointment with the oncologist, but after that, chemo will begin. In the past month, I've been subjected to many tests just to ensure that the cancer has not spread, and also to kind of get like a base level reading. All these different tests just to, like I said, either make sure the cancer hasn't spread, get a base reading, and kind of get an idea of where or how to best treat my cancer. So I've been subjected to the following tests: genetic tests, a bone scan, a CT scan, an MRI, and an echo, which is your heart. So the genetic testing first was the easiest. It just consisted of me spitting into a little cylinder until I met like a little line in the cylinder. So I just had to spit into the cup. They took it and mailed it off to the lab, and I had to wait about a week and a half. And the testing basically tests for the BRCA test, BRCA gene, which is most famous because of the Angelina Jolie thing. She tested positive. And what that means is if you are testing positive for this gene, you are highly likely to be diagnosed with breast cancer and or ovarian cancer. So they tested me because I have been diagnosed with cancer under the age of 40. They automatically want to test me. Basically, you just do like a family tree consisting of as far back as you can remember. If people had any diseases such as heart problems, cancers, all that stuff, and how these people died if they have died. And it just gives the genetic counselor an idea of what kind of family history you have, kind of like genetic mapping. So they combine that in combination with your actual test sample you provide. So they sent that off to the lab and came back about a week and a half later, and the test came back as negative. So I tested negative, which is good news. I do not carry the gene, which means I'm not, well, it just means I don't carry the gene. It doesn't mean I won't get any other cancers or anything, but it's good news for my family members and future generations that I don't carry the gene. Because if I did, that means everybody in my family would need to be tested too and possibly make some serious decisions. If you test positive, the percentage I think is anywhere up to like 85% likelihood that you will be diagnosed with breast cancer and or ovarian cancer. So it's pretty serious stuff, pretty scary, but contrary to what many people believe, cancer has nothing to do with whether or not someone else in your family has had it. I tested negative for having the gene, but I am the 4th generation now to have breast cancer on my mother's side, but we don't have any genes. So, I mean, we obviously don't know what causes it, because if we do, we would know how to treat it and get rid of it very quickly. So, as far as we know, we don't know what causes it, and we don't know how to get rid of it exactly. But so that was the genetic testing. So it's good news for my family and for me. The second test was the MRI that I did. The MRI was, you just laid down on a table. They hooked me up to an IV, and we all know how much I love needles. So they hooked me up to an IV. And they put this little thing across my chest. I guess it's just to target that area to make sure that the cancer had not spread any further than they already thought, they being the doctors. And to also see if there's anything in the other breast. And the MRI also gives a better idea as far as what the size is in the tumor that I currently have right now. So we did that. I laid down on the table. They scanned my body. The whole process did not take very long at all. I think it was maybe 20 minutes or so, maybe 30. So we did that. It was, once I was done with them sliding me across and taking all their photos, they sent that to the lab and for the doctor to diagnose, and my doctor came back and said that there was no further spreading. All they saw was what we already know about, the tumor in my right breast and a little bit of spreading in the lymph node area. So that was good news. I was kind of nervous about that test, I'm not gonna lie, just because, you know, you get nervous. Has it spread? Is there more? But thankfully there was no new information, which is always good to know. The bone scan. You come in earlier in the morning and they inject you with this radioactive fluid that's supposedly safe to be injected into your body. And so they inject it just regular through the vein. The idea is to have that radioactive fluid run through the course of your body and trace your bones. And if you do have any cancer, the ink or whatever it is will be a little bit darker and soak into that area if there is any cancer. So I got the injection around, I think it was it was like 10 in the morning, and I went back around 2 p.m. I went back and I just laid down on a table. They put some blankets over me, gave me a pillow, made me comfortable, and kind of similar to the MRI, they scan your body, but this one was more like an x-ray machine that could move. So like the little things came out and slid out next to my head, and they like on each side, right here and right here, and they took photos of my skull, and then they took photos. They did that over my entire body to begin with, so from head to toe, and that probably took about 15 minutes. Then they did a close-up of my skull, and they did a close-up of my chest area. and each one of those took about like another 10 to 15 minutes. Overall process was very easy, kind of relaxing if you're not uncomfortable with tight spaces, but it did get very, very close to my face, and luckily I am not uncomfortable with being in tight spaces. I just don't get claustrophobic, so it was fine. The test came back a couple days later. I actually got a copy of them. Do ask for copies of everything when you go to the doctor. That was a good tip that I received from my mother-in-law. You are entitled to a copy of everything because it is your body and you're going through these tests. So it's good to have a copy for your own records, and also in the event of you meeting with a doctor and they need to have a copy of something that they think they have and they don't have, you always have it with you in your little binder that you carry, your little cancer binder that you unfortunately have to carry around. So we asked for a copy. The nurse was nice enough to call down to the floor that made the copy. They called it down and gave them my name. So we went down to the bottom floor. They gave us a nice fresh CD that had been burnt with all my images, and it was really nice to have. 2 days later, I got the phone call, and the bone scan came out, same as the MRI, no new cancer, just showing what we already know. It also gave me some information about like what my bones are looking like at my age, which is kind of interesting to find out. I kind of got an idea of what's going on, and areas of my body that I am notorious for saying are aching or hurting. We found out why. It turns out I'm just getting older, and that's why it's hurting a little bit. So it's really interesting to find out, and it's really cool to get copies of and see this stuff. So the bone scan, also no new information, which is good information. The next test I had to do was the echo. Now, that wasn't really like a test. I mean, it is a test, but it wasn't really to see, do I have cancer in my heart, something like that. It was more to provide my doctor a baseline of where my heart is right now as far as its health and how it's working. And it's my understanding that they're going to gauge that and watch that throughout chemo and treatment. But I'm sure there are other reasons why I'm having that test done, probably to make sure that I am healthy enough to go through chemo and healthy enough to go through the treatment that they've figured out for me. So it was very similar to an ultrasound, for those of you that have had an ultrasound, except for it's just of my chest heart area. So I went in and I just had to take all my clothes off from the waist up, put one of those paper shirts on that opens from the front, and they just, same as a regular ultrasound, they put the jelly on the little remote thing, and they were capturing images of my heart and also capturing sound bites of my heart, and all of that was collected and sent off to the doctor. The whole process was very not painful at all, just them taking pictures. Whole process was probably about 45 minutes, and it was only that long because we had my nurse had a trainee, and they asked me for permission if it's okay for her to learn, and I said it was fine. So I think normally it would be much faster because once the nurse stepped in just to speed it up a bit, it was super quick. So that was done. I asked for copies of that as well. They said it takes a little bit longer for the results for that, just because it has to be sent to the doctor first. So they told me how to get my results, and waited just my normal couple of days, and like I said before, all healthy, no new news, which is good news. The plan for now is to go full steam ahead as discussed with the oncologist, which means we will start chemotherapy treatment, and chemotherapy starts this week. So I'm anxiously awaiting to start that so we can just get the process moving. But yeah. So overall of the tests, it was nice to know that the rest of my body's in good shape, because I pretty much have been tested for almost everything at this point. And everything came out nice, or came out as good as possible, which is a relief for both me and my family.